Hi, this is Glenda. Normally one of my videos will be whatever we're doing at our paper mates that we have each month. And this month is using your computer and printer for card making. And funnily enough, I've been quite struggling with this because I've always used my computer for everything. It's just part of my life and has been for ever since you could afford to get a home computer, basically. But when I first started sort of this era of card making, I used my computer a lot for images because I hardly had any stamps and I had very few supplies, so I would often print out clip art, as we called it, and use that on my cards. And I also did a lot of graphics at work, so using the computer was a little bit like working. So kind of I'd come home and I would want to do my card making that was just card making. So then they got separated a bit. As I got more tools and things, I used a lot less clip art in my card making. And I was thinking about how I use the computer now, and I have to say the biggest thing I use it for is learning. Because I spend a lot of time on internet, and you can pretty much learn anything there if you look in the right places. And that's where I get inspiration, that's where I learn new techniques and hear about all the new tools and what other people are doing. And that then I save it all too, so it's also my catalogue. So instead of a bookshelf, I have just hundreds and hundreds of things I've saved of ways to do things, and so it's also my craft library. And the other thing I use it for is shopping, because I can shop around online and find out what's out there and where to get it. And you know, I like to support my local shops, but it's not always possible because they're not always competitive and they don't always have the stuff. So none of those are things that I can actually share with people as such. Oh, and the sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. What I do often do is, if I'm doing cards for my grandchildren and that, and I want particular cartoon characters and things, whatever they're into at the time, I'll get those off internet and that and use those as digital images. So that is certainly one time that I do it. The other thing I really like to do is to print out sheets of sentiments, and then I can either cut them with an electronic cutter or dies or punches and have them available. So I've got so many more sentiments than if I had to buy the stamps for them all. These are all from TLC Creations. They have some lovely sentiments and they give them away regularly each week. And you can also buy them, of course. But that's a good source for sentiments. If you're making sort of all assorted cards, if every card is happy birthday, you're good to go. So anyway, then I had to move on to what can I do that's a sharing thing for using your computer in cards. So obviously clip art, digital images, that sort of thing. If you're doing for a group, you can, you know, get an image and mass produce it and share it with a group, and that's obviously a really good resource. So I've come up with this one. Deb Felder showed this the other day, but it's simply your card is zigzagged into 4. You're going to edge punch along the top and just use a decorative label to punch out these bits to make it look like a stand. So that was one thing I thought was a shareable, and I've printed out a sheet. Another one is doing these layered decoupage cards, so you know, there's a couple more. I'm sorry, I don't own the rights to any of these, so I can't offer them as a file online, but that's another way of using your computer, sharing it with a group. Again, it's simply printing out images for a group to use, and here's the last offering along those lines, so that I've printed out some images and used a punch to punch them out. But all of those are the same thing. They're all printing a digital image for sharing. Sometimes you can use your computer to do a technique that you don't have the equipment for, and Lindsay the Frugal Crafter showed a stamp she'd got the other day, which was a stained glass. And you have your stamp, you stamp that, and then you put any other stamp on top, and you get a different use out of your stamps. So I thought, well, I don't have that stamp. I probably wouldn't do it too often, but I can print out a sheet and do the same thing. And once again, I can share this, and this is the file that I will have to share. I'll put a link to it. It's a JPEG file, so you can try this yourself. But you simply want to choose an image that's got things to colour in it, but it's not too detailed. So then you simply stamp your image in black on your card. Now, I've printed these on with a laser, and if you're going to use an inkjet, you might have to be careful about what inks will smudge. You'll just have to experiment. If you can get a laser or print it out and then photocopy it, you'll probably find less stress. But it was just a way of you know, doing something that I didn't have the tools to do already. So that was a use of my computer. You just colour it in, and then you do your background in a light colour, but then pick out a few of the boxes and do them in different shades. And then I've given the whole thing a coat of ultra thin embossing powder. And I noticed Lindsay did the Uti powder and then cracked it. Well, I didn't want mine to crack. If you can use just one layer of the thin embossing powder, it actually gave it a lovely look that really looks like glass. So the camera probably won't pick it up, but it's got just a slight bubble like stained glass really has. So that was sort of a happy accident that it worked out that way, because I was going to do a lot of layers, and when I saw it after the first one I thought, no, this is the look I want. So I will also put a link to Lindsay's video where she goes into more detail about how to do your colouring and everything. But the only step that's different is that instead of stamping the stamp first, you simply print this out first. And there's obviously several different options there. So that's as far as I've got with ways to use your computer for card making. But, you know, as I say, it's just such a part of my life that I jump on it all the time for everything, so it's really hard to separate out what do I do that comes under that heading. So sorry, I've babbled on quite a lot and haven't really shown you very much, but that's what I've been doing this week, trying to come to terms with another tricky subject. So thank you for watching.